H.W. Bush, Oprah Winfrey, and I have in common? Is it our political views or career choices? No. The one thing that these men and women and myself have in common is the fact that we have southpaws. According to the Dana Foundation, only 10% of the world's population is left-handed. Sadly, not very many people recognize the struggles of left-handed people, nor do they know that there is actually a National Left-Handers Day celebrated every August 13th. There are many things that separate us left-handers from the right-handed people in our society, whether it be the negative connotations, the causes, or the pros and cons to being left-handed. Throughout all of history, left-handedness has been commonly looked down upon and socially criticized, which has led to many negative connotations to be formed. For example, a poll conducted by Harvard University found that people often think left-handers to have a nasty habit, be rebellious, be neurotic, be more likely to become a criminal, and to be a homosexual. Even according to the Oxford Dictionary, left or left-handed actually means defective, crippled, ambiguous, doubtful, and illegitimate. Many social customs have also played a part in these negative connotations. For example, in Russia, to be called left is actually a major insult. And in Scotland, you are considered to be baptized by a left-handed priest if you are unlucky. According to the Eskimos and the Moroccos, it was always viewed that the left-handed person was the devil or cursed person. And in many Islamic states and Islamic countries, the public display of the left hand is strictly prohibited, and eating with your left hand is commonly looked down upon. Many of these things often relate back to medieval times and back to the Bible. For example, in medieval times, it was often viewed that the left hand was used to harm, curse, or kill another. And in the Bible, the right hand is mentioned all over 100 times, all in a positive manner, while the left hand is mentioned over 25 times, all in a negative manner. Now, putting these negative connotations aside, it is time we move on to the causes of left-handedness. For example, according to a study conducted by over 40 scientists from 20 different research centers from around the world, they found that left-handedness is actually linked to a gene called LRRTM1, and this gene is found in almost all left-handed people. A similar study posted in the Washington Post found that left-handedness is also linked to pregnancy stress, trauma during birth, premature birth, and high testosterone levels. These studies also showed that left-handedness is not something that is taught, but is something that is developed in the womb and developed over time. Now that you know the basics about left-handedness, it is time we move on to the pros and cons of being left-handed. For example, according to a study conducted by Dr. Nick Cherubin, he found that left-handed people have a better anatomical connection between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. And because of this better anatomical connection, these people are better at multitasking and they have a better episodic memory than right-handed people. In a similar study conducted by Lawrence University, they found that left-handed people are better at spatial awareness, math, architecture, sports, and art. This same study also showed that left-handed people are more likely to develop an IQ over 140 than their right-handed counterparts. Now, even though there are many more pros we can consider, we can't look past some of the cons that come with being left-handed. For example, a study conducted by Georgetown University found that left-handed people are more likely to develop a stutter, Alzheimer's at an earlier age, and other mental issues. Another study conducted by Georgetown University shows that left-handed people are also more likely to develop other issues, whether it be with a development issue later on as they grow. Another con to being left-handed is the fact that we have to make do with all the right-handed materials in the world, whether it be scissors that don't cut straight, to binders that cause us to smudge our writing, to computers that don't accommodate us, to, well, everything. The one thing that left-handers do have going for them, however, is the fact that we get to choose our seat at the dinner table. Now, putting all these things together, it is without a doubt that left-handed people are the odd ones out. But when you put the positives versus the negatives, oftentimes the positives overcome those negatives. Whether it be Ben Franklin, Isaac Newton, George Washington, or any other historical figure that also represented the left people, such as Leonardo da Vinci, these things often have us believing that we're not the odd ones out and that we are good to begin.
thought I would be writing to you again. After all, not many people would write a letter to an ex they've gone steady with and broken up with 4 times. Yet, here I am, writing you one final letter. Consider this my final goodbye. Adios, sayonara, see you in the funny papers. It's time to move on. And I just want closure, real closure, for me. I deserve that. Lies of the Heart by Kendra Sparks. Because you've always been a true left-brain thinker, which was one of the qualities that originally attracted me to you in the first place, I'm going to make this easier for you. I'm composing this as a list, so you can hopefully understand me and where I was coming from over the last 1.5 years. So you can just file it away with all the other facts, useless facts, that fill the big fat noggin of yours. Let's begin, shall we? Trivia fact number 1. I'm not really allergic to hot dogs. I lied when I told you I was allergic to hot dogs. I'm not. I simply don't like them. The fact that hot dogs were a staple in your intake of 4,000 plus calories a day was something I was willing to accept. Every time we went to grab a bite to eat, you ordered a hot dog. You kept asking me over and over if I wanted one too. I said no, but that answer was never enough for you. You'd ask me if I liked hot dogs. I'd lie and say, sure, doesn't everyone? You'd ask me if I wanted one. I'd say no. You'd ask me if I was sure I didn't want a hot dog. I'd say yes. You'd ask me why I didn't want a hot dog. I'd lie and say I wasn't really hungry, when in reality, I was starving. This Abbott and Costello routine went on for weeks, and then I couldn't stand it any longer. We went to grab a bite to eat, and you ordered a hot dog. You'd ask me if I wanted one. I said no. Again. But this time, when you asked me why I didn't want one, I'd lie and said I was allergic to hot dogs. I still remember that look you gave me. It was like you were hurt. You'd ask me why I never told you in the first place. I stumbled around and told you it was embarrassing being allergic to something as American as hot dogs. I had no idea anyone could eat a hot dog every single day. So, the point here is, I lied. I'm not allergic. To my knowledge, I'm not allergic to anything. I just don't dislike hot dogs. I hate them. I don't know, if I'm being really honest here, you probably made me hate them. Before, I just disliked them. Now, I'm sure. You made me hate hot dogs. Trivia fact number 2. Cats are superior. I know you always said you were a dog kind of guy. I get it. You like dogs. But I did tell you I like cats. You said cats were stupid. They shed, they're not affectionate, and they can't do tricks, you said. Well, guess what, mister? Consider me a cat. Because if I ever see you again, I will claw your eyes out with my ferocious nails. Not very affectionate, am I? I guess I'm just trying to shed all memories of you. So run home to your mother. I'm sure she'll be happy to console you with her big fat cello as you cry into her apron strings. How's that for a trick, huh? Remember this, and remember it good. I am a cat. Hear me meow. Trivia fact number 3. You're not as literate as you think you are. I know you consider yourself a person who reads, but people who say they read books. Books filled with pages. Pages filled with a plethora of words. People who say they read do not pick up a magazine-like book, comics, filled with animated pictures and little bubbles coming out of their mouths saying words like zap, yap, and bonkers. So before you include something as misleading as likes to read in that future little online dating profile of yours, you might want to hide the comic books under your bed, right next to a lost hot dog covered in dust bunnies, you freak. Trivia fact number 4. Plaid does not go with everything. I understand. Some guys are drawn to plaids. A plaid shirt, however, does not go with paisley shorts and a tie-dye cap. Plaid shorts do not go with a tuxedo shirt and a straw cowboy hat. Plaid! Did I ever once see you wearing anything other than plaid? P.S. Last time I looked through a college Cadillac, lumberjacking was not offered as a class. Trivia fact number 5. You're one of the many frogs in my life I like to call my pond. All little girls are told you have to kiss a lot of frogs in order to find a prince. We, of course, translate this into our hot dog despising little minds to mean the girls have power. We have power and we can change things. We can change men. If we kiss a frog, he might turn into a prince. Please, don't take this the wrong way, but you are just a frog. You'll always be a frog. I kissed you and I dreamed you would turn into my prince, but you never did. You were just a frog with a lot of warts. You'll always be a frog. You're never going to be my prince. I just kept waiting for the magic to happen. I just kept waiting for my happily ever after. I realize now, however, that my happily ever after does not include artificial meat placed in a bun. Well, that's it. I hope this clarifies some things for you, because this list includes many things I've always wanted to say to you, but for whatever reason, I was simply too afraid to say aloud. I know it sounds like I hate you. Trust me, I've read what I've written. But it's not hate, honestly, it's not. It's frustration. I've been frustrated with myself for such a long time. Don't get me wrong, you definitely added to my frustration. But I never hated you, not even now. It's time to move on. After all, there's a lot of frogs out there, and there's also more than one pond. So there's no need for you to be jealous. Just go grab yourself a hot dog, sit on the sofa, and listen to your mother practice her cello. You'll be fine. As for me, they say good things happen when you least expect them, and I'm perfectly content to sit in my lily pad and wait. I've got the rest of my life to find my prince.
What is your idea of a fun night? Maybe you enjoy going to a bar or a party with people everywhere. Or would you rather just curl up with a good book or have a night in with a few friends? Your choice could determine whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. These terms were introduced by a psychologist named Hans Eisenach, who theorized the differences between these two groups of people, who are known as complete opposites in the social world. Introverts tend to project inward, preferring to spend the majority of their time with few to no people. Extroverts, on the other hand, want to spend as much time with other people as possible. However, in the big picture, introverts and extroverts are really not all that different. It's impossible to be entirely introverted or entirely extroverted. So you might spend a lot of time with friends, but occasionally want some much-needed me time. No matter which personality you favor, there are bound to be some misunderstandings. So today I will talk about what an introvert is, what an extrovert is, and how the two interact. First, introverts are not necessarily shy. This is a common misconception that's all too easy to get. An introvert is a person who prefers their own company over the company of others. Yes, they might be shy and socially awkward, but more likely, they just want to be left alone and appear weird in a culture that values people being loud over people being quiet. According to a 2012 study by Randy Buckner of Harvard University, introverts were found to have thicker gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, a region of the brain linked to abstract thoughts and decision-making. This suggests that introverts tend to sit and think more because they have a need to process what they're taking in. In another article written by Lori Helgo of Psychology.com, it said that introverts were found to have more electrical activity in the brain than the average extrovert when doing similar tasks. So introverts need less stimulation to keep themselves entertained. This also means that too much stimulation would overwhelm an introvert, causing them to pull into their own world to avoid overstimulation. Introverts also converse differently than extroverts. They want to take the time to think about a question, rather than just popping an answer off. So they will take time and think, which could lead to the conversation moving on from the topic, or even the introvert dropping out of the conversation entirely. This could cause something called self-talk, an internal dialogue that happens when the introvert is alone, or even, sometimes, with other people. According to Helgo, too much self-talk can lead to anxiety and depression, so introverts do benefit from social interaction. They just want less of it. Robert McPeck, Director of Research for Center of Applications for Psychological Type, found that another result of this self-talk is that introverts are more self-critical than others, but also more realistic in their self-assessments. Now that we understand the world of introverts, what makes an extrovert tick? An extrovert is a person who wants to be around other people as much as possible. They gather energy from interacting with others and become bored the more they're alone. According to Lisa Bushak from Science Tech, extroverts need more stimulation to feel energetic.